And that's indeed what our institution has been working on. Not only in this region, we have been looking at a program in Peru in the waste management sector, but in Vietnam, we've been working on a cement sector, NAMA, which actually will be implemented together with our colleagues from the ADB. So I think there's a lot of work to be done on NAMAs, and we need to test some of those approaches. At the moment, many of them are purely academic. We need to do some on-the-ground work with MRV, and I think Asia will be a major testing ground for this activity or this class of activities. I think that in terms of, I think the comments have already been made, but I think there's really an opportunity here to experiment and to work with evidence-based learning. There's a lot of initiatives, a lot of programs, activities that have been undertaken very successfully, and clearly a knowledge platform is required to disseminate those activities. So I'll leave it at that. I think many of the points have been made ahead of time, so thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Of course, financing is always the key. And in particular, financing involving private sector to address the real need in developing countries manifested in the form of NAMA. That's quite important. And now we have listened to all the comments made by discussants, and now I was told that the time is almost up. And just I'd like to take one or two short questions from the floor. So, gentleman over there, please make your question very short and sharp. Okay.
I'm another Mori working for the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology, next. My question is the current distribution of scientists or distribution of scientific disciplines when you talk about knowledge platform, particularly for Asia. While attending a Plant Under Pressure conference in London last March, European scientists argued that they had a strong impression about Japanese science or Japanese current status of interdisciplinarity, multidisciplinarity, and transdisciplinarities. Having listened to very interesting presentation today, I was wondering what is the implication of Asia or Asian collaborations. And the Japanese impression was that heavy dominance of natural sciences, minority content of social sciences, and the absence of the humanities. When we talk about the Asian collaboration, or in the context of, in the today's context of science policy dialogues, in today's context of South-North problems, I think it is critically important to have a good mix of reasonable distribution between natural sciences, social sciences, and humanities.
Okay, thank you very much. And gentleman over there? Okay, so that's the last question.
Thank you. My name is Amaya. Simplified measurement. Very simple measurement of an environment. I am developing such a tool for ordinary citizens. In 2002, when there was a COP8 being held, I had the pleasure of meeting with Dr. Pachori. Now my tool has further advanced, and in just 1 hour, this is the nitrogen dioxide. Using this, it is a very simplified tool. And with just this reagent, about 500 the samples that can be tested. And in this hole in this room. You can see that it's so dirty. You can see that it's colored. Can you ask a question, please? Now, for the sustainable development, the decade for sustainable development education. Education is so important. So in that sense, I hope that my tool could be made of use for such education. Now, the biggest waste of a society is a war. We need to eliminate the war totally. And by using these tools, I hope that we will be able to spread the activities to eradicate any wars. Thank you.
First question, will you respond?
この問題は実は
This question for us in environmental science has always been a key question. We have had silos, a separation. But to my surprise, last week, I was looking at my own CV, and this showed the distribution of science and technology research budget. I'm not in the measurement area. My specialty is control. But there is no discussion of applying this area in the area of environment. So it continues to be a challenge. But this is not time to complain. When it comes to study academia, knowing is just a trigger for action. That was said by Iken Kaibara, for example. So that is how it should be positioned. Wisdom for the sake of wisdom, knowledge for the sake of knowledge is something that we need to question. I mean, in terms of question, I mean, this also is familiar to those in China and perhaps those in India. But if we can share this spirit in Asia, I believe there could be a reform of academic systems in Asia. I have still more to do in terms of study, but that I believe is the spirit that I'm living for. So perhaps that is perhaps a potential. There is potential for new methodology in science.
Actually, to respond, the very simple measuring tools for environmental education.
Well, I think you really need to demystify everything related to environment, technologies, and so on. So if there is a simple tool, then certainly it should be utilized. But may I also say that even though one may not have formal education in several parts of the world, you find at the grassroots level, people have arrived at empirical methods by which they use their wisdom, they use their traditional knowledge, and are able to come up with means by which you can assess what is happening to the environment. So I think we need a multiplicity of tools and approaches, and anything that's simple, anything that converts the complexities of what we study into something very simple that people can understand has to be encouraged. So I hope the tool that was being described can be used for the benefit of the younger generation and generations yet to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we have to conclude this session, and no time for my summary, and therefore just I'd like to conclude. And please give big hand to speakers and discussants, and then we close the session. Thank you very much. どうもありがとうございました。
森社長、皆さんありがとうございました。